Welcome to what I hope you will find to be a fascinating webinar, because it's really about the heart of our work, and that is the way that first Max Cade and then Anna Wise, and now we in the practitioner training program, and hopefully all of you will understand is the most efficient and I don't want to say formulaic, but certainly best known and most time-proven way to train brainwaves to higher states of consciousness, starting with the meditation and the awakened mind pattern, and then continuing from there. And so I have a PowerPoint show for you. I'll just share screens. And so here we are at the Anna Wise protocol, the ABCs of awakened mind training. We thank Oksana for that lovely graphic. During this PowerPoint show, you are most welcome to ask questions in the chat or raise your hand, or just wait till later if you like. And Oksana's going to weigh in whenever she feels like she wants to. And we just want this to be almost kind of like an open forum. So questions get asked and hopefully answered whenever you're ready. For those of you who do not maybe know Anna Wise and only the slightest bit about her, she was a student of Max Cade's from 1974 to 1981. She was actually a hippie before that. She had gone to college in Boulder, Colorado, where she was living. I think she was born there. And she went because she had had 4 near-death experiences, complete with the angelic choirs and the celestial staircase and all of those things. And somebody had, to her chagrin, pulled her back to life just when she was going into the beauteous other side. And she went to visit a friend in London and found Max Cade teaching there at the Franklin School, which had a whole lot of alternative, complementary, holistic, really on the leading edge back in the early 70s there, ways of working with the body, mind, and spirit. And she realized that Max would be able to teach her to get back to that place without her having to die to do so. So she basically got a job at the Franklin School and stayed there from between 1974 to 1981. And in 76, the mind mirror was invented. So she was there really for all the early years, the sessions, the research on healers, psychics, dowsers, mediums, and other extraordinary people that Max mapped their brainwaves on the mind mirror and discovered all these patterns that we're training now, at least 3 of them. While she was in the UK, she trained dancers and other performers. She just got a mind mirror and took off and started the natural dance workshop with her soon-to-be husband, Jim McRitchie. And so she was really doing a lot of training herself in conjunction with Elizabeth St. John, who is a mind mirror owner and a healer that we've heard from on previous webinars. In 1981, Max handed her a mind mirror and she said, "Thank you very much. I'm going to go set the US on its ear." And that's exactly what she did. Jim McRitchie in a previous webinar said that she took off like a rocket with the mind mirror, that she immediately started to train corporate CEOs and artists and ordinary people. And she ended up, before her passing in 2010, hooking people up for a total of 6,000 hours. I think that was probably a guesstimate, but still, you can imagine that's a lot of people, a lot of hours. And out of that experience, she wrote The High Performance Mind first in 1995, Mastering Brainwaves for Insight, Healing, and Creativity. And then her second book, which is the one she really wanted to write first, because it has meditations after each brainwave category. Second book was Awakening the Mind, A Guide to Mastering the Power of Your Brainwaves. And then she also published her High Performance Mind CD set. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It happened that one of the people she trained was a board member at the Esalen Institute, and so he facilitated the writing of her High Performance Mind book and her presentation of workshops there. I don't remember at this point whether by the time I was assisting her in 2006, we were going there 3 times a year or 4 times a year, but she taught seminars for a weekend, one short weekend one, and then a 5-day but longer one. And so she had a whole array of workshops: awakening your mind, one, awakening the mind, two, and then EEG and spirituality, and so on. She would just, align them to people's interests, and they were always packed with people, as many as could fit into the big room or the big, beautiful sunlit room at the big house there on the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean at Big Sur. And so she actually left Big Sur in 2010, a workshop, and went to the hospital in Monterey, California. And Gary Grosbeck and Donna Bach were assisting her during that one. And she passed away still, as her husband said, and I said at a memorial service for her, she died with her boots on. She was a powerhouse, Anna was, and she had many opportunities to give up her work and make her life a lot easier, and she absolutely did not want to do that. She loved to work with people. She loved to train people, and just meant the world to her to do this work and to convey it to others, because obviously you can imagine at Esalen, 24 people in the room, a lot of them advanced meditators, some of them new meditators. Watching people awaken is like having your child suddenly wake up. You see it in their eyes, and it's life transforming. So it was the thing she loved most in the world, besides her beloved son, John. In 2001, Esalen became a gateway for her work into what she called the practitioner training program. She began to train people to be awakened mind consciousness trainers. And when I trained with her in 2005, I was just amazed that she was giving away everything. And all of these wonderful techniques we're going to look at here. And she trained 135 practitioners from 2001 to 2010. She certified only 65 people. I mean, she had some very stringent criteria, and you absolutely had to be a master of the work before she would certify you. And some of those people are on our website now. Not very many. Most of the people on the Institute for the Awakened Mind website are basically trained by me and trained by some Andrea Grow, Oksana, and Suzanne Temple. We're all doing practitioner trainings these days. She left an incredible imprint on the world. People still come to this work from reading her books. She had many discoveries, more than I could tell you about here, but the main ones were that any normal person can develop an awakened mind brainwave pattern, which you see at the left. This is the pattern that Max K discovered in highly developed and spiritually conscious and awakened people. Anna, when she came to the US, just worked with anyone. She was not looking for you to have an extraordinary experience of life and state of consciousness. And she found that, sure, anybody can develop the awakened mind, any normal person. And she also learned to use the voice as a brainwave entrainment device. Max had come out of hypnotherapy, and he had a lovely voice, a very British voice, and he would speak rather quickly, and you would follow the meditations. And I tried to keep them somewhere between Max's pace and Anna's in the meditation center when I recorded his meditations. But I leaned more toward Anna's approach, which was to slow the voice and make it softer, and to begin to elongate your vowels in order to bring people into lower and slower frequencies. So she really made this an art. This is something we really pay a lot of attention to in practitioner trainings, and this was entirely her invention. She used binaural beats for brainwave entrainment in 2 orchestrated soundtracks that she defined the binaural beats for, and that you, as a self-trainer, will be very familiar with. the meditation music has got frequencies for alpha, theta, and delta, and with a flat beta. And the awakened mind music is more of this extended beta, so it's a little bit faster. She actually ended up working with Andrew Weiss, who the very famous holistic doctor who created, he actually hired a London orchestral ensemble to orchestrate the beat frequencies that Anna designed. She had 20-page scroll of beat frequencies, and the orchestra followed it on the CD set called Sound Mind, Sound Body. She said she couldn't sing, but she certainly understood music and she certainly understood frequencies. A lot of people have that album, and it's quite extraordinary because, you know, it starts out with this Mozart kind of fast music, and then it slows and slows until you have got nothing but a gong sound. And she discovered that 7.83 hertz is the Tibetan crystal bowls, or rather, the Tibetan singing bowls frequency, and it's right smack in the middle of alpha theta where those healing frequencies are. Those bowls are tuned to that frequency, and you can really feel it. And then in that sound mind, sound body, the frequencies and the speeds up and gets you right back into presumably an awakened mind, because you've made the big dive down into this mid alpha theta. And then as a humanistic psychologist, Anna introduced what we consider to be our key meditation, which is the awakened mind meditation, where you're using Gestalt psychology, parts integration, to work with the part, to find out what the part's issue is, why it's separated out from the whole, and what needs to happen for it to reintegrate so that that part is healed, whatever personal issue that is. And that is our awakened mind meditation that produces precisely this pattern you see here, because it involves dialogue and voice. Beta, verbal beta, is actually working with the issues down here in, well, alpha and theta, but certainly the issues that are embedded in theta. And then she created the High Performance Mind CD set that I mentioned before. And that is a complete protocol. She designed that. It starts with beta mastery, goes on to working with alpha, what's it called? Kickstarting alpha. And then the House of Doors meditation is on it. Many of you are familiar with that one. And it goes all the way to the awakening meditation. So that was really great. And we do have that available in the meditation center. And then to the point of this webinar, she created the Anna Wise brainwave training protocol for her practitioners to use in teaching other people to awaken their awareness. And so I'm going to say a few things right now for those of you who are maybe not completely familiar with this work, and just point out that Anna's work and Max's is based on this 44 hertz pattern where the top frequency band is 38, and that's inclusive of 40 all the way up to 44 hertz. And this is the self-training outline. Of course, you know that for the awakened mind, which is only beta, alpha, theta, and delta frequencies from 0.5 to 44 hertz, that what we want to do is quiet the beta. So that the conscious thinking mind of active, typically externalized thought, all that analysis is actually quiet. You don't have beta flaring up here. Instead, it's downturned into the alpha bridge here in green, the theta subconscious in blue, and the delta unconscious mind in purple. And so with the awakened mind pattern, with this orchestration, basically you have an open flow of awareness from verbal beta, which has some clarity now that it's quiet, to relaxed sensory alpha, which is the bridge down to the creativity, insight, and the ability to do self-healing in theta, and the empathy of radar like delta, as well as the psychic intuition, because delta, as the personal unconscious, is very much in resonance. Dean Radin says that the unconscious mind is trolling the quantum field for energy and information. And that is one way of saying it, that this radar is searching for its connection to the collective unconscious. And so with this pattern, this is our most ideal brainwave pattern because the ratios are right according to what Max Cade found and Anna and now we find, which is 2 parts alpha to 1.6 parts theta. At that point, the thought as electrical activity is flowing through the neurons and the brain, and the various parts we are measuring are all connected to one another so that thought can freely flow through. And so I included this slide because, first of all, to point out that the awakened mind of creative flow and peak performance, and of course the meditation pattern of flat beta, as well as the evolved mind of non-duality, this circle here where delta conjoins with theta, beta conjoins with alpha. It's not a perfect circle here because we have much better electronics than they did then. We typically see the the alpha extended, but basically it's a circular pattern. And it's a pattern of oneness, that circle is about oneness. It's where the mind is united with itself. And not only with itself, it's united with its spirit. So this is the pattern of non-duality. And typically when people swing into this pattern, if they're aware of their conscious body at all, which most people aren't, there are tears. And then what they were looking at was the meditation, the awakened mind, and the evolved mind pattern. We're looking at a still more of a higher state pattern that we began to be able to see in 2011 after Anna passed, and I started working with ballistas, and we got the Mind Mirror 6 and these 2 extra bars of first mid gamma and then later upper gamma up to 100 hertz. And you can see that this awakened mind pattern and this gamma synchrony pattern, alpha, theta, and delta, are pretty identical. Although I did decrease the amplitude of theta because now when the concentration of consciousness moves into these higher frequencies, these superconscious frequencies of mental integration, coherence, spiritual connection, love, compassion, sometimes it can be mystical union, spiritual ecstasy, all this gamma needs to be grounded by this awakened mind under it. And if it's not, and this gamma is extending out here in the same way that stressed beta can extend out here, then that person's going to have some probably electrical issues, because here's 50 hertz, here's 60 hertz. So this person can be very vulnerable to noise coming out of the wall, to computers. It's really difficult for them. And they're also going to be typically, if they've got this splayed beta gamma, distractible, nervous, and unable to keep their thoughts together. So this is a pattern of integration where the gamma is integrated with the awakened mind below it. I'm not going to say much about the gamma synchrony pattern today or this one. Someone who's online with us today may recognize this pattern. This pattern is very rare. I've only seen it once or twice. Maybe Oksana can weigh in. Maybe she's seen it more with the mediums. I see it surprisingly quite a lot at the Monroe Institute, where it is stimulated by gamma frequencies that are certainly 40 hertz in this top band, but it can be harmonics of 80 and 100 and 20 and sometimes 160. And so those binaural beats that people are listening to with headphones on while they're lying in anti-gravity chairs, their brainwaves do entrain with those high frequencies, and those high frequencies, without a doubt, as shown by our data and reports from 6 programs at the Monroe Institute, these high frequencies do stimulate all of our patterns, just like Max said in the back of his book, that he thought that exposure to higher frequencies or spiritual states of consciousness would stabilize and inform the lower frequencies. And indeed, that's what we see. On this slide, I just show you the kind of thing that can stimulate this universal consciousness pattern, which is a 100 hertz evolved mind. This meditator traveled from constellation to constellation, and during this 40-minute meditation, while he's listening to these gamma beats, and experienced the peace and perfection of Lyra, Vega, and their planets. He produced this pattern of universal consciousness when he realized that he would be able to go to the planets and enjoy the trip. And why that is because there's your unity, you see, your unity consciousness pattern, but in a higher frequency range. And in fact, he had on the 100 hertz scale, awakened mind 89%, evolved mind was only 18% because there's a bit of a right brain dominance here. And the mind mirror doesn't give you, as you know, pattern statistics unless you have, for the evolved mind, perfectly balanced circle. But the gamma synchrony, a whopping 83%, which, as you know, these are extremely high scores on the 64 hertz scale. And if you have the features pack and you have pattern statistics, or you have the portal, we've kind of sneaked these statistics into people who don't have the features pack into the portal on the 100 scale. These are incredibly high scores, and you see why. Here's his pattern. And then I showed in the composite display, you could see where he went to Lyra and Vega. His gamma absolutely surged from, started out 0.6, and it surged all the way up to 2.2. So that's an increase of factor of almost 4. And we have a mystical scale for the Monroe Institute programs, and an 8 of 10 includes, I don't know if his included ultimate reality here, but this is just short of ultimate reality, and it might have included it. To go on with our show, the Anna Wise Protocol, how do you get to these higher states of consciousness, perhaps all the way to universal consciousness, but certainly to the awakened mind? And this slide shows the challenge. This is the ordinary mind that you're going to find in most people, even some advanced meditators who haven't learned to externalize their meditation pattern, their awakened mind pattern into ordinary consciousness. There's nothing here but random thinking beta up at the top, and then radar like delta, which never turns off unless the person is self-absorbed and not seeking anything outside themselves. And the problem with this pattern, I called it the little me, an unawakened pattern of separation from self and others, because there's no alpha and there's no theta in this pattern. You need that alpha bridge to be able to access your theta. And without it, it's just the ego up here in beta and the radar watching its back here down in delta. So the Anna Wise Protocol, and I included this little logo for Institute for the Awakened Mind here because this is what we're teaching in the practitioner training program, is in individual sessions and also in group brainwave trainings. Anna would start by increasing relaxation, and that is done by a variety of different techniques. First, and you'll hear this in all the guided meditations, you withdraw from the outside environment into yourself, and there are various steps and stages. You're withdrawing from the environment into your body, into your mind, into your deeper self. So you're going steps and stages deeper in. And once you're completely centered in yourself, slow and deepen the breath, relax the body. Increasing relaxation doesn't have to include alpha production, but if you centralize an environment with all of your senses, which stimulates alpha, or as it does right here, then that is going to decrease beta considerably, just being aware of the sensory world, either outside in an environment or in an inner landscape in your mind. And increasing the relaxation doesn't necessarily increase theta. Um, Alpha will increase the relaxation and decrease beta. But in order to reach theta, there needs to be something needs to happen within your consciousness and or the guided meditation, because you can sit in alpha and just daydream and never move toward your deeper awareness. And Anna wanted to increase theta right away because the idea was to put people in touch with the deeper self, with I call it the deeper core self. She called it the essential being. Some people call it the soul. Doesn't matter what you call it. There is a part of you inside that has the answers to all of your questions and even will tell you which questions to ask. And so there has to be a way to get from that alpha bridge down into the lower and slower frequencies. And one way is to, once you're in your environment, to explore it. Walk around, go down the path, over the bridge, through the forest, under. Everything that's a preposition will actually move you into theta and start to stabilize you into theta, which is what you see happening here as this theta is stimulated. After a while, if this is a deep theta meditation, such as the ones we have in the meditation center, which would include the House of Doors and the Down and In album, well, then that meditation is going to ask you to sit or lie down in your environment and close your eyes and drift down and in, feather soft, slowly, deeply, and gently, and you will feel yourself drifting down. And as you drift down, of course, your beta is reducing more and your alpha is stabilizing more. And you land in and then rest in a place of peace and light. Every meditator knows what this feels like. This is a completely different state of consciousness. We see it on the Lesh scale. These are actually pictures that go with a Lesh scale, decrease from 0 to 1, 2 and 3, and so on. And once you move into your theta, then the meditation will say, if you're open the drawer and see what's in it, or open the door and see what's in it, or just rest, like in the down and in meditation, in that place that you find yourself in, and just be still and wait. And of course, the poor subconscious mind is so often defeated by this very busy beta ego. Give it a chance to talk, and it always does. I mean, I know I've done 2,000 or 3,000 hours of sessions with people, and I have yet to see theta not pony up with some kind of insight. Because after all, this is where your creativity and your insight is, where your issues are, and where the healing has to be done. And so the essential being is going to step up and give you some energy and information to move forward in your life. This is the point at which I'm still quoting from the Anawise protocol, but here I start to kind of overlay sort of mechanistic steps and stages in the protocol, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But I'm overlaying because this is not going to be just only how to move into your theta and move into higher states, but what's happening in your meditation and how to bring that out into your life. And so Anna's next thing on her training protocol was to reduce beta. And that would be if someone is down in their theta and thoughts come up and distract them, and beta increases, and you can't stay centered in a stable alpha theta meditation. Alpha and theta combined is the definition of meditation with a flat or slightly rounded and quiet beta. And so to reduce beta, she has a wonderful series of exercises on her High Performance Mind album in the Mind Mirror Portal Meditation Center under classic albums, and that's called Beta Mastery. Lots of different techniques, such as relax the tongue, withdraw from your thoughts, slow your breath, count your thoughts, and then some others besides that. And then, as we've also already said, you can use sensory awareness, which she does have some wonderful sensualization exercises as part of that beta mastery exercise to stimulate alpha and reduce beta. And there are some mastering beta with imagery exercises on that same album. And all of this is going to reduce beta, but nothing reduces it faster than connection with your deeper self, which is the point of increasing this theta. So these sort of mechanistic technique or steps and stages of the way that she would train individuals in particular, or if they are not stabilizing. Most people do, but some people studied with her for years, had sessions for years, individuals did. And there are people who cannot sustain and maintain that alpha bridge. This is the power of the meditations in the meditation center, because they're guiding you, and that voice is holding you and brainwave and training you to drop into those lower and slower frequencies, and giving you the questions for your theta to ask, or your beta to ask your theta. So for the people who had difficulties, they would have to make sure that their beta was reduced. And then she wanted to make sure that you were able to turn your alpha on and know that your alpha was turned on. And this is really important. It's part of the whole idea of awakened mind training and mastery. And so alpha being that relaxed, diffused, detached, daydreaming sensory awareness that serves to stabilize as a bridge to the deeper mind of theta. Here I'm widening out, kind of overlaying to give you a bigger picture than the more mechanistic, which I'll show, as I said, in a minute. So once you're in your theta, what you need to do, what everyone needs to do, is increase its amplitude by exploring it. So you're increasing the amplitude and you're stabilizing it. And how you do that is maintaining a connection with your deeper self in meditation and, of course, in daily life, by working with the content of theta and being open to the content of theta until theta stabilizes in some proportion to alpha. If it has more, all the better, than the 2 parts alpha to 1.6 parts theta. But certainly it has to be stabilized for you to be able to really awaken to the content of your deeper self. And then the meditation pattern, which is 4 on the Lesh scale, you guys all have copies of that in your table of subjective landmarks that's in the back of the user manual. Or if you don't have a mind mirror and you're with us today, then it's these patterns are on the Awakened Mind tab of the Institute for the Awakened Mind website. And you can see what the Lesh scale is, how you're dropping down into lower and slower frequencies. And so extending intuitive delta is really important. It's not absolutely necessary to the meditation pattern with the flat beta, but why not? We certainly want to be in connection with the collective unconscious, the quantum field, to uptake energy and information, because, face it, theta doesn't know everything. The essential being does, but if you don't have delta, then the essential being is not receiving information from the field to move up into theta, across the bridge and into conscious awareness. And so we have theta development and awakened mind meditations in the meditation center that will help you stabilize theta, and also to stabilize and exercise delta. Anna's High Performance Mind album has the bubble, which is specifically designed to help you feel your immediate self, your ordinary self inside a bubble, and then to expand that bubble to include your subconscious and other people, and then expand it further to include your unconscious mind, at which point you're very spread out. You're very expanded. And the more you go down into your delta, the quieter this beta gets, right? And so once you have this awakened mind pattern, well, what Anna wants you to do, what Max wanted, and what we as practitioners certainly want, is for you to use your awakened mind. Once you have this pattern with the correct proportions of alpha and theta, you should be able to maintain your meditation pattern with quiet beta that allows you to function in everyday life. That's not what usually happens for most people. Most people experience stress, the phone's ringing. I started to say the fax is going off, but I don't think anybody has fax machines anymore. But certainly you have a lot of windows open. You're busy. People want things. And what happens is the alpha collapses. You lose your relaxed sensory awareness, go back to that hourglass-shaped pattern, move into high beta, stress, anxiety, and panic, unless you absolutely cultivate this ability to keep your sensory awareness on, keep your sort of daydreaming self busy and activated, and stay in contact with your deeper self in theta. So for this reason, we have lots of meditations that work incredibly well to solidify, stabilize that awakened mind pattern so that people can clear enough stuff out of theta that the ego loses its need to be splayed and in high beta and protect you. Because once theta is clear, you see, or halfway clear, I mean, we're probably not going to clear it completely in a single lifetime, of issues, problems, challenges, things that have been conditioned since childhood and possibly from past lives, if you believe in that. Once this gets cleared to a certain point, though, where you have mastery over the brainwave pattern and know that in everyday life, you can sit down, quiet your mind, go back to your awakened mind landmark, remember what that feels like, that word, image, concept, symbol, or body sensation, reinstill those brain waves so that you're recreating them to the awakened mind, and then you solve the problem and then you go on. Well, the more and more you do that, the more you're able to sustain this pattern, because what is there then to be afraid of? See, self-separation is gone. I mean, you still have some in the indentations, these categories of consciousness, which you could easily call your intellect, your intuition and alpha theta, and your instinct and delta. Once those are separated, then you're going to move into this pattern. And the beauty of the awakened mind pattern is that it is a self-evolving pattern. If you can maintain it in meditation, you will get the insights that you want to heal and transform and integrate. And if you can maintain it in everyday life, even for short periods of time to begin with, and increasingly longer periods of time, because remember, this is the pattern of the yogi and the Swami, right? Who's kept this alpha on, kept this awakened mind on during daily life. Well, then you're going to find yourself united, not just with yourself, but with other people and with your spirit. And once you are that calm and that expanded and that open in meditation and everyday life, then what inevitably, invariably follows is peak moments of illumination that cause complete unity within yourself and with your spirit. So this would be spontaneous illuminations. Maybe just all of a sudden, the classic Maslow example, which I really love, is that the woman is in the kitchen scraping carrots, and the feminists won't like this, but she's scraping carrots and she looks out the window and she sees her husband playing with the children. And all of a sudden she has the sense that everything is perfect, just as it is. It's just beautiful. And there's this sense of gratitude and appreciation and love. And that's what stimulates this pattern right here. And once you have this pattern and you're operating in this awakened mind a whole lot, then you will invariably and inevitably move toward the pattern that Max and Anna couldn't see, but we can, and that's that gamma synchrony pattern. You see, this is the frequencies increasing up here, and this is them integrating into our gamma synchrony pattern. So let me just stop right here. I'm going to go into the more mechanistic things in a moment, where she's really sculpting each frequency bar in her formal protocol. But let's just stop right now and ask if anybody has any questions. So then I'll
I have a question.
Okay, good.
Hi, Judith.
Hi.
I've been looking at the website for the past week and trying to make sense of everything. And I understand all the patterns and stuff, but what I'm trying to decide is the pattern of learning. Like, there's so many material on your website and I'm overwhelmed on how to start. I don't think I'm ready to purchase the mind mirror. But in order to go into mediumship, I'm just wondering what is the proper crescendo of learning, the material meaning.
Okay, so that's a great question. So let me say first that your awakened mind is the pattern you want to learn in. And the way you can get to that awakened mind pattern without the self-training program is just strictly go to the meditation center in mindmirrorportal.com. And here you're going to find all of the meditations that are involved in all these steps and stages toward awakening. In the relaxation and beta mastery section, this is how you're going to increase your relaxation. Max Cade has a beautiful meditation called Relaxed. It's 5 minutes long, and I don't know what kind of magic is in the words he uses, but I mean, I go from one state of consciousness to a complete different one at the end of that 5 minutes. So, and then there's an autogenic exercises that is like 25 minutes long that literally relaxes every ripple, every nerve in your body. Very famous autogenic sequences. And then there's a River of Life that has a beautiful, it's an album with a beautiful meditation that Anna wrote called River of Life. And that one will take you not only into a deep state of relaxation, but into your delta. It's really kind of moving into your deeper self with some of the things she talks about in that meditation. So you could increase your relaxation with relaxation and beta mastery. And then if you want to follow the protocol, dive straight into the theta meditations. I tell this to practitioners, and I will mention it here. I do understand that Anna believed, and rightfully so for the people at Esalen, that if you just take people into a straight deep dive as the second step to increase the theta, then certainly they're going to connect with their deeper awareness, that essential being, and then they're going to want to go back, and so will the ego. But this is almost a deep dive off of a high diving board, because some people do not have the tongue relaxation, the slowing the breath, the sensory awareness, and they'll still have distracting thoughts. So what I suggest always for people is to go back into beingness meditations in the meditation center's awakened mind segment, because the ego thinks, I'm tipping you off now, the ego thinks that it's just going into a daydreaming state to become an animal or a magic potion or a book or a musical instrument or something, and it does not interfere. It says, oh, great, we're going to go and do some mind play. And what it doesn't realize is that by the time that meditation starts to ask you questions, how, what are your qualities and characteristics? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? You're doing a deep dive into theta. And that deep dive produces the awakened mind pattern. So when I'm working with groups, I don't actually follow the protocol. I go straight from relaxation to the animal meditation so that people can feel what it feels like to be in the awakened mind without the ego getting in the way. You don't have to know any techniques. You don't have to do mind mastery because you're so engaged with this fascinating inner experience you're having that the ego is not blocking. But if you wanted to follow the protocol, certainly you could dive into down and in, which is the theta meditation, the purple planet, and others there in the meditation center. If you find that you're having trouble, this is why she put this next, with staying in your state of consciousness, then this high performance mind, this is a complete brainwave training system. And it's a very reasonably priced album that's going to do beta mastery, alpha sensualization exercises, then take you down for a theta dive, and then the bubble for a delta dive, and then orchestrate you into opening to clarity and awakened mind meditation and transformation, which is an awakened mind meditation. So to answer your question, in sum, all of these steps and stages you can visit on that High Performance Mind album, and you will be in that state of receptivity, that awakened mind of creative flow and high performance. Did I answer that question?
Yes, totally. And also, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, and I did your superconscious mind CD. And I experienced the same thing as I did when I did the Monroe Institute programs, where I'm kneeling actually to meditate. I don't know if that's why, but I always had a sort of a headache at the beginning and
Hmm.
some nausea a bit. And I don't know how to get rid of that.
You know, that's a great question. We talked about that and over the last few days actually yesterday when the professional development conference was going on, and we talked about the gamma beat frequencies. And what many people who use gamma beats in meditations don't realize is that you need a theta, delta, and alpha scaffolding, because otherwise the brain is not able to sustain those gamma frequencies. So it might be that the scaffolding is not strong enough for you yet. And more of these awakened mind meditations that are working with delta, theta, and alpha would be better before you do the superconscious mind. Now I will say that, excuse me, that in Superconscious Mind album, Bob Holbrook put 40 hertz gamma in the first few tracks to help people get accustomed to that gamma, because remember, that is actually up here, which people call fast beta in the original awakened mind pattern. And that is the frequency, 40 hertz, 38 hertz, the frequencies of coherence that cause the pattern to stabilize, cause the brain to balance, cause the body to come online. But if you're finding that you have trouble tolerating them, don't do Superconscious Mind, don't do Monroe for a while, just do our meditation center albums. And what's going to happen is that as your awakened mind develops and stabilizes, then it's going to start self-evolving. And you're going to, I mean, I didn't say this before. I thought Oksana was going to weigh in and say it, so I'll say it now. As you stabilize this awakened mind pattern, what almost invariably happens is that you increase the amplitude of your theta and your delta, which can exceed the alpha. And that is because you're doing this cleanup work. You're starting to evolve. And this is a movement toward that evolved mind pattern. And once you have this high amplitude theta and delta, and you start having flares of even partial flares, right brain or left brain or the whole pattern, then gamma waves can be carried as a carrier wave on top of these high amplitude, lower frequencies without any pain at all. And I can say that from personal experience because I have issues with my spine from car crashes. And I was unable to tolerate gamma, even in training practitioners. It would make me feel lightheaded, sometimes headachy, but mostly just too spread out. And I would have to constantly ground to the earth, ground inside myself to bring those gamma frequencies down because I would entrain to them. And when I first started listening to binaural beats with gamma in them, not by iAwake and not by Monroe, they didn't have the theta delta grounding for those high gamma frequencies. And I felt like somebody was hitting my brain with a hammer. It was just awful. I was nauseated, disoriented. And so this is why I'm saying if you just do awakened mind training without any well, it is binaural beats in the music, but in some of the music, but it's alpha, theta, delta, and low beta and no gamma frequencies in there.
Beautiful. And do you suggest, like, you're the institute, do you encourage people to lay down or at least sit with your back against something, or kneeling is okay?
I do, and I think most meditation teachers and certainly most practitioners do. If you lie down, there is the potential for falling asleep. So it's actually better to just sit with your back upright.
Mhm.
And the main reason is because your back is supported, but also your chakra system is aligned. So energy can flow through your body in an unobstructed way. And then the other thing is that, I mean, if you have a, what do you call that little pillow? I forget the name of it. Meditation pillow that some people kneel their knees on. Anyway, whatever it is, there's a part of you that's going to say, I have to pay attention to where I am in space time, which is externalized beta. So, if you've gotten to the point where you can lose complete awareness of your body and move into a state 4 for flat beta meditation, or a state 5 for an active working meditation, and you're not aware of your body at all, then that's fine. A pillow's fine. But if there's a part of you, even an undercurrent, that's saying, am I tipping over? Or ouch, my knees hurt. Well, it's actually dragging you from complete connection with that meditation, with whether it's silent or a guided meditation. Did that make sense?
Judith. Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Okay, sure enough. Any other questions?
Judith, may I just add a few things?
Oh, please. You're the co-presenter. Add everything you want. Please.
I can first address the question from Nicole, and I bet what she's saying about headaches and nausea, it might be, or very likely, gamma related, because if she's into Buddhist practices, it means like lots of rituals and meditations which kind of take you to these higher gamma frequencies eventually, especially if you do it like regularly and long term, it will eventually switch on gamma. And more and more people are awakening these days anyway, kind of hundreds, this monkey effect going on. And what I can say from my gamma experience, it is really important to be aware of how much you interact with computers, any screens, any electrical devices, because all of these, even just simple electrical light above your head in the room, may affect your state and may cause headaches and nausea. And plus, other things like diet are important, and Judith knows that. So excessive caffeine, excessive carbohydrates or sugars, they will add anxiety to gamma. They will. So it's really important to ground it, by which I mean be aware what causes anxiety, how much time you spend with electrical devices, especially screens, and try to kind of balance it out by more time on the ground with barefoot if you can afford it, just sitting on the ground, swimming, like submerging your body into water, any interaction with water, and drinking a lot of just plain water. And in terms of meditations and what from my experience with mediums, I can say that anybody will say that thoughts tend to come in and interfere. And when we are talking about undesirable thoughts, that means quietening mind and starting with beta exercises, and then sustaining bridge. It's okay for most of mediums, but unless you have a big trauma, with eyes closed, most of people will open alpha. And then drifting deeper into theta, again, for some people it might be challenging, because if there were lots of unresolved issues, the content will start popping up from, we know theta is your subconscious, so gradually going, slowing down, it may be challenging. It's really important to remember that we are not like really separating the categories beta, alpha, theta. They all work together and they all influence each other. And that's maybe the only thing that I want to add to Judith's talking about Anavai's protocol, that, I mean, you may address like explore, stabilize theta, but it will affect alpha. It will affect other band width and categories next to it, neighbor categories. So we kind of work directly and indirectly. They all work together. That's the key to remember. We can't just separate one. Or like many people today, they say, for example, mediums, healers, they use lots of delta. I want to train delta. Delta is a special case in general. So you have to develop that sensation of delta and make sure that your hypersensitivity doesn't end up with excessive hypervigilance, but rather it's tamed and nicely integrated into awakened mind, so it doesn't cause anxiety and frustration and other feelings that you may pick with being over empathetic or hypervigilant, which is common for hypersensitive people. And working with gamma, again, be very cautious, and I wouldn't advise, if you want to experiment, do it with a lot of caution, because just stimulating gamma, it's like switching on your electrical devices without grounding cable. You may burn yourself off with side effects, which is very, very uncomfortable. And don't forget that everything is interconnected, like brainwave categories are interconnected, and our body, mind, spirit are interconnected. So remember about your body, what your food intake is, plus sitting in the meditation. Sometimes body work is necessary to release the tension out of the body as well, and even other specialists necessary, either massage or chiropractor, someone, if there is lots of blocks in the body, they need to be addressed as well. And it will also help, you work through the mind on the body and through the body on the mind as well. So it's both ways. That's all that I wanted to say at this stage for now, Judith. And I had a bright idea. Maybe we could organize what you were presenting. It's a bit late idea, but if we put it nicely, maybe in a table where we list the this kind of logical steps of Anavai's protocol, and just list the meditations that are available in meditation center, say from level 1, level
Sure.
2, level 3, and it will help for someone like Nicole who just coming into our work to help them navigate and where to start, and maybe give some hints, what it is like when you need to work with beta, when you need to work with alpha. It's all in Anna Weiss's books, of course, and I'd highly recommend it to read her books, right? It's all in the
Yes.
table of subjective landmarks that will really help. You can download this table of subjective landmarks I'm sure it's somewhere online, or get it from the book, and that will give you the guidance of, even without mind mirror, where you are very likely with your brain waves when you feel this, when you feel this, when you feel this, and as you're slowing down your beta and going deeper, you will know.
Yes, yes. And let me just clarify, Nicole, that the Monroe Institute brainwave entrainment is not just pulsing out gamma to people. It does have that scaffolding of delta, theta, and alpha. So some people are extremely sensitive to those gamma frequencies, and you want to just build your scaffolding a little bit better down there in the low frequencies before you go back to gamma meditations. But honestly, during 6 programs, I've only heard of nausea in 2 people, and that's, well over 100 people. So, so yeah, Oksana's certainly right that you don't want to listen to pure gamma tones, certainly. You want to have this integrated pattern, but as long as you're working with something that has some integration, you should be okay. I do see a question here from Kim. Hi, Kim. A former student of Anna's. She has 2 questions. Is there a skull cap in the plans for the mind mirror? Happily, no, because now we have the dry electrodes kit. And that is a headband that is pre-assembled with prong or spike electrodes, and you can use saline on them. And we only have 4 electrodes, so a skull cap is kind of overkill for us. You also asked about the Muse headband. The Muse is measuring on the forehead. We're measuring on the back of the head where there's much less artifact that confuses and disturbs the brainwave pattern. And Muse could certainly help you quiet your mind to some extent if you're absolutely still and there's no artifact masquerading as relaxation. But as a long-term solution, I can tell you that I bought one to see what it was doing, and it had me in a steady state of relaxation, advanced relaxation, and I was nowhere near relaxed. So if you want to learn the kind of deep meditation that we're doing here, to descend into these low, slow frequencies and orchestration, that's not going to happen on the Muse or any other system for that matter. You could use it as a preliminary way to slow thoughts as they present themselves in the frontal lobes, but for that matter, you could buy a $25 GSR or temperature sensor and lower your temperature, and that's going to lower, help you relax and move the activity out of the frontal lobe. So everything Muse is doing, you can do considerably cheaper. Did you want to add on to that question, Kim? You can unmute and continue and say,
Hi.
okay.
Hi, Judith. Thanks for answering the question. Yeah, one of the things that was interesting to me about the Muse, and now I see that with the additional device that's on sale this weekend, it kind of does that. What I found interesting about it is, when supposedly as you're going into, deeper meditative state, you get feedback instantly. So, birds chirping or whatever. And I thought it was interesting, although I have to say my internal sense didn't necessarily match up with the birds chirping. So I was a little puzzled about whether there's just lag
Yeah,
in it, or it's just measuring something different. So that was my one thought with that.
right.
The other thing is, just honestly, it's an easier setup. You're just like, bam, you're there. And with the mind mirror, it's still a lot. It's not something that I feel like I can do every night. So that's one of the things that made me think I would use the Muse in days I'm not using the mind mirror. But anyway,
Sure.
thanks for your answer.
Yeah, you could even correlate the two. That would be very interesting.
I was
But
thinking about that. Yeah.
I found the same thing, that the birds were chirping when I was not relaxed. And in fact, I was even frowning. So that was just pure artifact.
Mhm.
Okay, so now I promised that I would show you this more mechanistic, full Analyze protocol. And that's what this shows. Um, and this is, in fact, the illumination of the lotus within yourself, the chakras, the brain, the whole system. This is how we teach it to practitioners who are going to work with individuals. And it is very nuanced. It follows some of what we've shown previously: increase relaxation, access theta, dive down to the essential being, reduce beta if there's still beta going on while you're trying to be in meditation, access alpha. And then if you have managed to do that, then she would next address hemispheric balance. Now, hemispheric balance in most people is automatic, because by the time you dive into the slow frequencies of theta, the brain will typically balance. It doesn't balance in everyone, and sometimes it doesn't matter. If, for example, you have an awakened mind in the left hemisphere and an evolved mind, a partially evolved mind in the right hemisphere, well, you wouldn't want the person to balance unless you brought that evolved mind over to the left hemisphere. But there are meditations, and we do have them in the meditation center, for hemispheric balance. And it can be important if you find that you're so left brained that you're out of touch with your heart, your spirit, your creativity. And, our years ago read some statistic that said that 79% of the world's population or the US population, is left brained. And that's fine, but not if you're always in your ego and always trying to control things with your analytical self. That is completely unhelpful. So in that case, it is important to balance the hemispheres through theta meditations, and also through the hemispheric balance meditation we have in the meditation center. And then once the hemispheres were balanced, then Anna would turn her attention to Delta and say, what is Delta doing? She loved to say that Delta was like a mischievous child. And that is true, that Delta, being your unconscious mind, is going to switch on when you need to search for an answer, when you need to be hyper vigilant and watch your back. But it's also true that if you're doing any meditations that relate to light or healing, then you're going to see Delta respond to that. And not a mischievous child, but an obedient child, then that is a great way to expand your Delta, increase your intuitive abilities. And we have all of the higher state meditations, and energy mastery would be working with Delta, because they all have to do with light, expanding your consciousness beyond yourself into something greater than, however you perceive that. And then she would access alpha and theta together. And this is all with the eyes closed. And just make sure that they're firing together, that people are actually entering that meditation pattern. And then she would add the beta back to access the awakened mind. This would be in that sort of personal transformation meditation or creativity meditation, where verbal beta is involved, either bringing the question down into the lower and slower frequencies to be addressed through parts work, or just doing a meditation like Exercise Your Game, which is a great creativity meditation we have also in the meditation center, where Anna said, get crayons and pencil and paper and make a dive. And so that meditation, Exercise Your Game, will take you from your articulated question in beta all the way across the alpha bridge, where you centralize it, the question or the creative project, down to germinate in theta, and then you release it in delta, and then it brings you back up, and then you get wonderful sense of how each of those categories feel. And in fact, I haven't said it enough before and should say it now, is that every single one of these steps and stages and the meditations that relate to them intends for you to get a landmark, that word, phrase, symbol, image, concept, body sensation, sound, whatever it is, that is the way you experience that category. Reduced beta, accessing alpha, feeling what alpha feels like, feeling what theta feels like, feeling what delta feels like, so that you can orchestrate all of these brainwave patterns or brainwave categories into that awakened mind pattern. I mean, it's not like you say, oh, now I'm going to turn on my alpha, and okay, now I'm going to turn on my theta. It's more that your brain knows what they feel like and remembers that, and thus is able to orchestrate together. So once she'd add the beta back, then she would give direct feedback to stabilize alpha, theta together. Now, of course, she would say, she'd be working with an individual and say, there it is. And then they would say, oh, I made the alpha. And then next time they made the alpha, she'd say, there it is. So she would teach them to hold. Now we can do that with the self-training program. So most of everything that practitioners were teaching in this Analyze protocol to individuals, you, through the self-training program and the meditations and the meditation center, can do for yourself. You can stabilize all of this for yourself. You can even test to see if you have gained beta mastery. I did this some years ago. I suddenly looked at the protocol and said, wait, have I got beta mastery? And so I took a manual trigger button and placed markers where I sped up my beta, slowed down my beta, and I had it. I was really kind of amazed of the control over beta. And that's the result of having reduced your beta here, feeling what it feels like when it's quiet in the awakened mind pattern. By the time you get to this higher level of the individual training protocol, well, then you're certainly going to be able to have a stabilized awakened mind pattern in meditation with the eyes closed. So then she would do eyes open training with people and teach them first and foremost to have a stable alpha with the eyes open. Because if you have the alpha bridge with the eyes open, well, then you have access to your theta and you can externalize that awakened mind pattern. And that is really, as we've said over and over again here, that is the key, to externalize your awakened mind, which not that many people can do. And so I added this slide in to refer back to something I said before about just as the brain adjusts itself to the audio cues in the self-training program, so does the brain start to self-evolve. Once you have this awakened mind pattern, then your consciousness can literally evolve itself. And this goes back to your question, Nicole. This is a perfect answer for your question about this gamma and how do you tolerate it. Well, first, once you have the awakened mind and you start to have peak moments of illumination, like the one I described earlier with the woman and her carrots, peeling her carrots, this sense that everything is right, you're one with everything. The difference between subject and object disappears. You realize that you are everything and everything is you. This is a perception of ultimate reality on the quantum level of light. There's no differentiation anymore. Once you have that, then the brain begins to optimize to greater lucidity and intelligence. It will develop this gamma up here because the body is going to vibrate into higher frequencies also, not just the brain. And so, Nicole, your situation is that your body's not ready for those higher frequencies yet, but it will acclimate. And even Monroe says that if you have trouble with the gamma, stay away a few days, then try it again. And then the next thing you know, you will tolerate more and more gamma. And this is the love, compassion, mystical union, spiritual ecstasy. If you want to talk about practical things, mental integration, super learning, coherence, super consciousness, the ability to tap into higher frequencies. And we want that because this is what's giving us the extra neurons, building new neurons here in the frontal lobes and in the hippocampus, increasing your capacity, not only for intelligence here, but increasing your capacity in the hippocampus for memory storage and retrieval. So this is super conscious. When you tap into this field, this light in the field itself is going to make you more super conscious. So it is a progressive situation. And in the next progression, once the body is able to tolerate these high frequencies and the heart opens and the spirit soars, then there is the potential for this universal consciousness pattern with this 100 hertz evolved mind. Which, as I say, I've seen mostly at Monroe Institute stimulated by gamma beats and not very often in people otherwise. And once you have these kinds of higher state patterns, then your awakened mind pattern is certainly going to externalize into the eyes open mind of meditation mastery. And so on this last slide, this is just a reminder, mindmirrorportal.com. Of course, everyone can use just the audio cues in the self-training program to sculpt the pattern. But if you do that, you're training the state and not working with the content of consciousness. And so you have this beautiful awakened mind pattern. You have 99% pattern attainment rewards at training level 5. You're working at training level 4, and you get out of your training and there's some kind of stress. You drop your alpha, you flip out, you lose your awakened mind pattern. So you can see the training content, feeling the categories, getting landmarks for each one of these categories, training them, conditioning them through the guided meditations, and doing the cleanup work, you see, at the same time, and then letting in the light with this higher self and energy mastery category is going to do so much of the work for you. It's so much faster. It's like having a little angel on your shoulder, because it's going to guide you to what needs to be changed, healed, and transformed. It's going to guide you to your questions, your issues, your challenges, and help you connect with your essential being so that you can find solutions to those questions, issues, and challenges, which trains the state. So by training the content, you're simultaneously training the state and doing the clearing work that's necessary for you to more in a very scientific way. I mean, this 45 years we've been using these meditations and these meditation structures, more scientifically fast forward your consciousness. And then the classic albums, there is Analyze, under that category is Analyze's High Performance Mind, and then a few of mine that I created for part of my practitioner training and then made them into albums. But they're basically all of hers, especially hers, with the beta mastery and the sensualization exercises, are complete brainwave training systems. All of this is a complete brainwave training system. But then the last thing that I'll mention, and these have been really selling a lot in the meditation center, they're more expensive, but what they do is include take meditations out of each one of these categories that we experienced during the practitioner training seminars and split them into seminar 1. So that's called awakening. Seminar 2 is called refinement. Seminar 3 is called mastery. By then, you're moving into the higher state meditations. And seminar 4 is transformation. So that album is titled Transformation because this is where you're really going to transform with these higher state meditations. Kundalini, gathering the energy for healing and gathering the healing energy for transmission to others, and all of those. And Max has some stunning meditations in this, in seminar 3, complete brainwave training, and also in this higher self. So before I leave this slide, any questions while we stay here about the Meditation Center meditations, or we can just talk?
If I purchase the complete brainwave training system, would I cover all of the above?
You would. You would cover them all. And not only that, excuse me, when you get to seminar 2, if you've had any difficulty with any of the categories of consciousness, the sort of remediation meditations are in there. You know what? This is an adventure in consciousness, isn't it? The bottom line here is that what matters more? What's more fun? What's going to take us farther along in life? What's going to give us everything we need to know about who we really are, but direct connection with the essential being in theta and the quantum field in delta. So Anna codified all of this. What I did last January, wow, all of last year ago, I was going to the studio and record all of the meditations in her books and meditations that aren't in her books that she had for higher state meditations for the seminars with the practitioner trainings, and record those and split them into categories according to the Anna Wise protocol. So if you go to mindmirrorportal.com, Meditation Center, what you're going to see is the Anna Wise protocol split into categories. And so you can go category by category and have a blast. I highly recommend the beingness meditations. I mean, they're so much fun. Think about it, just to take the animal centralization. Ego's out of the way. You're placing your awareness in yourself as an imagined animal, which your theta has given you because it's ready and waiting. Once you've got that alpha bridge, the theta gives you that animal. You're exploring your own subconscious mind and you're getting answers. If you're a bear, I had somebody who was somebody who had problems with mobility. He was a bear running across the savannah and feeling power in his body. And the result for him was that he could feel more power in his body every time he imagined himself as a bear, and he went back into the awakened mind pattern, optimized his brain, energized his body. So these meditations are working on multiple levels. They are training your patterns. They're helping you heal and transform and integrate yourself. And they're helping heal your body because the coherence in the brain is cascading down into the physical body. So I can't recommend them enough. Anything you want to add to that, Oksana? And questions about anything, anybody?
Yes, Judith, I would like to add that, I mean, I highly recommend this complete training system. And for those who don't know where to start, maybe in the future, I just had a bright idea. It would be nice to have some sort of maybe questionnaire, very simple and short. And then I just want maybe to repeat a couple of things, but I think they are very, very important, like critically important when we talk about awakened mind training. So we may drift a little bit away from the protocol, but they are absolutely essential to our work. So I want just to emphasize that very often today when people come into the mind mirror, they think, okay, neurofeedback, I want to train this state, and they go into training mode. So let me remind you that we have three paths or three ways or three options really how we can train, and the best way is, of course, you can use all of them, right? But more often people think I sit and I train my alpha theta, or I train beta reduction. I start with, the first step, quieten my mind. I train beta reduction, and then I go and train alpha to stabilize alpha, for example, and then alpha theta. So they go into what we call self-training mode, which is when you basically receive incentives. Your brain receives incentives and trains. I call it passive mode personally, versus to active mode, when we train by following all these exercises and meditations according to Anna Weiss's protocol, because I think it's a brilliant work put together in a very logical way. And just doing meditations and exercises, you optimize your brain in similar way as you would doing it in a passive way. But to me, this passive training, like classical neurofeedback training, is a bit more violent or aggressive, because when you go through meditations and exercises, you kind of moderate how far you are prepared to go. You're not just pushed to fit certain formula or ratio that's sitting behind self-training mode. So it's more organic, so to say, it's more natural. Plus, we work not just with states, we work with content, which is crucial, because just yesterday he said, I've been listening to holosync meditations for 4 years, and then I had to stop because suddenly I had all this painful material coming up that I didn't know what to do with. Some childhood memories, some traumatic stuff. So obviously he's approaching that deep theta levels that were suppressed, and this stuff coming up to be healed. And it's extremely difficult to do it by yourself. So he's kind of opening the doors with all the skeletons jumping out, but he's not prepared to face them on his own. It's much easier to face it in a, like, as I said, in a safer training setting, with a practitioner, with another person. It's great, who is trained to help you and make sure you feel secure and safe and comfortable, and whatever is coming up will be received and, gently handled. And or through meditations, transformation meditations, it's a perfect way to do self-work, self-exploration and self-healing, self-therapy, and this transformation work with yourself, integrating this abandoned aspect of yourself, as Judith mentioned, borrowed from Gestalt therapy, putting yourself back into one. So, and it's again, it's more organic and natural when you can do it yourself through this, rather than just hitting the stage and not knowing what to do with the content that's coming up. So really, that's
That's
what
a really good point.
that's
a
what I
great
wanted to
point, Oksana.
emphasize. The key benefit of what we offer, it's not just clinical neurofeedback option where you self-train, you send incentives back to your brain. That's one thing you can use, great function of the mind mirror that we have nowadays. Second way, it's Anna Weiss's protocol with all the beautifully organized and logically arranged exercises and meditations that will guide and help you along the way. And it's beautiful, and they will work with state. They train the state, and they'll help you to work with the content. And then the third thing that I want also to mention, that along the way you will collect your individual keys or landmarks. So it's like a short key into the state, a short key how to reduce beta, a short key how to open alpha, short key how to open theta. It's like your personal individual's mantras, if you want to say so, that kind of you press these keys and they send you to the state. And I just remind that I had an idea, and that's what I was collecting landmarks for my students and clients and putting them like into one short meditation, so that like I'm pressing all their favorite landmarks at once, and it takes them to a beautiful state in a very short time. You know, you don't need to zap your brain for 2 hours with some binaural beats. You can do the same in much less time. You've collected all these keys, you've done all self-exploration, you know what's triggering, what's opening you up, what's slowing you, what's taking you to that higher, more expanded state, and then you can just, for the ease of it, put it all together into one sentence, into 3-5 sentences, and that's your own individual mantra that will take you there, you know, da-dum, and you go there. So I think this is beautiful, and this is the genius of Anna Weiss and this training.
Yes, you brought up some really good points. Oksana has actually got a webinar in the video gallery about the power of landmarks, and she has a case folio where she told about working with her clients. For the practitioner training, you work with 5 individuals and do 5 brainwave sessions for them, and they're getting these landmarks for that felt state of inner awareness. And so she's talking about stringing them together and making sentences for people as a mantra, and people really responding to those, going back into the state, because your brain doesn't know the difference between a felt and an imagined state. So you repeat those landmarks, you're back in the brainwave pattern. And you also reminded me, Oksana, to point out that in the self-training program, we have certainly the meditation, awakened mind, gamma synchrony, and evolved mind patterns, but we also have preliminary self-training patterns that follow the same protocol. There's a beta mastery, an alpha development, an alpha theta training, and a delta expansion as well. So if you need help with any of those categories, you know, it's mindful of the Anna Weiss protocol.
May I remind that you put together, for those people who decide to buy the mind mirror and train themselves, who don't go through practitioners trainings, you put together a beautiful manual where you explain logical steps, where you start, where you go, how you feel when you work like with beta, this, what to expect along the way. So really it's a beautiful manual and guidance, and I'm not sure, it's a question back to you, whether you are happy to share it with others just to understand better how it works, because it gives a good guidance to those who are not working or training with the practitioners, but it will definitely help to better understand the training process, where and how and what.
Absolutely. Anybody, just send me an email. If you're not a Mind Mirror owner, I'll be happy to send you. It's called the Mind Mirror Self-Training Guide, and it has little oddball things that I've picked up from various places through the years. Like if you want to train your alpha outside of the Anna Weiss protocol and the techniques we send, use spatial awareness. Just be more peripherally aware of the space around you, and it shows you a dot. If you focus on this one dot, then you'll feel your eyes laser in on that dot, and then it gives you 2 dots, and then you focus on the 2 dots and you'll feel your awareness expand, and then it gives you 3 and you'll expand even more, in the same way you would alpha expand by gazing at a sunset or a sunrise or any place in nature where you're just more aware, and that's your alpha. So yeah, it has got a lot of useful techniques. Just send me an email if you want a copy of it and don't already have it. So do we have any other questions about this? Was it helpful? Anything you don't understand or want to add?
Judith, how do you know when to move to the next, from one stage to another, if you do have the mind mirror? Like, how do you know that your beta has successfully?
Well, the training levels are going to tell you. In fact, the training levels also include beta mastery, alpha development, everything that's a possible preliminary self-training program in the mind mirror, those statistical scores are in the training summary, that statistical column chart that has the 1 through 10. And you want to, for the awakened mind, be at training level 5, because that is where I've found through the years, that people are scoring between 75 and 100% rewards. Actually, I'd never seen a 100% until the Monroe Institute. A friend of Jim Lewis's, who's here online with us, had a 100% for the awakened mind. It totally blew my mind. And when you're between 75 and 100%, then you can go anywhere. You can go work on training level 4, or you can switch over to the evolved mind. It just kind of depends on what you want. But if you have very low scores, for example, I just showed a slide of somebody who had a brainwave pattern that, not today, earlier, he had a quiet beta and almost no alpha and a ton of theta and delta. And so his awakened mind scores were very, very low, down in the 20s and 30% at training level 5. And it was clearly because he didn't have enough alpha. And so he attended this program at Monroe Institute, went through 5 days of listening to meditations with gamma, but also with that scaffolding down in the alpha, theta, delta frequencies. He quadrupled his alpha at the end of those 5 days because of exposure to coherent gamma also. And so if your scores are really low, you just look at the pattern and see, where is the deficit? Is it not enough alpha, or is it too much beta? If it's too much beta, you could go to the beta reduction training program, or you can do more theta meditations that are going to reduce your beta, or even more alpha meditations that are going to reduce the beta. So you can do it mechanically through the self-training program, or you can go into the meditation center based on the, I don't want to call it deficiency, but whatever is keeping you from getting from high scores for pattern attainment. Get that meditation. It's right there, categorized for you. And I guarantee you it works. I mean, I'm working with people online through a mentorship program and directing them to those meditations. They listen to the meditations. Category, it has to work. It's been working for 45 years. Yeah, it has to work.
Thanks, Judith. And there's also a question in the chat box from Marianne.
Oh, thank you. Looking for a device that will instantaneously display my brainwaves on a computer screen so I can self-train. Not looking for an entrainment device because I want to be self-directed and do my own experience. That's the mind mirror. Is this kind of thing out there? All I find is things that entrain you, which is not what I'm looking for. No, actually, what happens with the mind mirror is you don't have to use the self-training program. I mean, that's a command that you would turn it on. If you don't turn it on and you just experiment around, you can hit the enter key between each experiment and see what the brainwave patterns looked like after the session. But it's also true that the mind mirror has it. If you buy the mind mirror features pack, it's $200, but it gives you the ability to set up any kind of pattern you want. You can sculpt your own pattern. If you say, I have an awakened mind now, but I want to be more intuitive, you can just increase the delta so that you don't receive the pattern reward till you've got the delta. So you can create your own patterns, or you can go with absolutely none.
Did you see my second comment? You said I could see them after the session.
I wanted to see them during the session. Well, you could with eyes open. The only thing about that is that alpha doubles. If I may say, I've seen your brainwaves and you have a ton of alpha. You know what? You have eyes open alpha.
Yes.
You do. I remember it was also your 100% at training level 5.
Thank
You're
you.
already talking, so I can say it, and it's nothing but a compliment. Yeah, you have eyes open alpha, so you could do eyes open training. You're ready for eyes open training right now.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, not many people are, I'll tell you. Almost everyone can use eyes open training. And then I see a question here from Nicole. I'm going to start my mediumship course with Suzanne Temple in May and want to get my meditation on that track. I don't think I understand that question. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, Nicole?
Yes. It's just like while waiting, I wanted to get on with meditation to get those, like she's talking about those levels of theta and everything. And I just wanted to be aware of what's happening during my meditation. And so I
Yeah,
was
I mean,
looking for the materials, but I think you answered when you said, like, if I go to the seminars and I go through the seminars, and I'll be
right,
okay.
right. But you know what? So this means that you have a mind mirror already, right?
No, I don't. And I
Oh,
don't get it really what it
I
could be
see.
useful for me.
I
And
see.
that was my question next, is like, for those people who do have it, what was the purpose initially, like to get it? Like, was it to get the certification training so you can work and have clients? What, like, I'm curious to hear about other people, what they do with it beside for
Absolutely.
themselves.
That's a great question. So Suzanne is a teacher of mediums, but she is also a practitioner trainer. So she could train you through all 4 of the seminars, even stop at 3 if you just want to be a coach and not work with groups, although that's where you get your investment back, is working with groups, your monetary investment. Yes, she is a wonderful teacher, and she certainly could take you through that program. And what people do is, you know, the day will come once we get this mainstream mind mirror device out and advertised on Google and Google ads and all that. And hopefully that will happen this year, and that will raise awareness of the mind mirror. Now I can tell you that people who are in the practitioner training program typically have another revenue stream that supports them, and they do the mind mirror on the side. Now that is unless they're a psychologist, a social worker. We've got tons of medical doctors coming into the mind mirror work nowadays. They're taking it into their practice. There's a sleep clinic that's going into their practice in Geneva. So if you're not depending on your mind mirror income, fantastic. If you are depending on it, well, you're going to have to do some serious marketing, because everybody knows what Muse is. They had, what is it, $50 million startup funds. So they hit every ad venue there was. So everybody knows what Muse is. Mind mirror, not as much, but that it will change. And if it's not your primary source of income, there's nothing, in my humble opinion, and I think every practitioner will tell you the same thing, there's nothing more fulfilling than helping people awaken their awareness to the realization that within them is an incredible wisdom that will help them take control of their lives. And this program, that is the whole purpose of this program. And I tell you, you have friends for life. You just teach one person how to relax their tongue at the beginning of meditation or in the middle of a conflict with somebody else, and you have a friend for life. So this is brilliant, wonderful work. And please do talk to Suzanne and see if it might be something you want to pursue. She'd be delighted to have you in a mediumship course if you have a mind mirror, because she's doing, like Oksana, a lot of research on mediums. She's done over 100, and years ago, she had done 150 sessions on mediums.
The reason why I went to your website is that I am from Quebec, as you could probably hear my French accent, but it's the time zone. It's very difficult with the time zone from Europe to. That's why I'm here today, is to see if I can get something from the Eastern America.
Well, if you decide to do practitioner training, I'd be delighted to train you. I have online trainings all the time, and they are absolutely perfect. I mean, it's actually easier on me because I'm not cooking 2 meals a day for people anymore. Yeah, we do everything. Now, something that you had asked earlier had triggered a line of thought, and let me just circle back to that. And I haven't said it thus far for mind mirror owners, but can't encourage you enough to, when you buy a meditation track and you're hooked up to the mind mirror, it's going to automatically, if you're signed up for the mind mirror portal, which is 10 free sessions, your sessions go up into the portal, and then the most amazing thing happens. First, that your data is stored, and it never is going to go away, and you'll never lose track of it. If your computer crashes, if your Dropbox drops out, you'll always have it in the portal. Second, that it does all of your data analysis for you automatically. And third, and in my mind, the most important thing, is that the meditation script is in the portal. And you go to the meditation viewer and you click on the meditation viewer, and the whole script is there with your brainwave patterns right beside it. So if you talk about getting landmarks, you can see I blew into this awakened mind pattern. I blew into this evolved mind pattern. My gamma started to increase, and you can see exactly what caused it. And that is invaluable. This is something you can only get with a in-person session with a practitioner right now, because they're going to be drawing your brainwave patterns and taking notes. But if you have a portal account, you can do this for yourself. And Andrew Tang made this portal so affordable, is that after you run out of your 10 free sessions, you can buy a whole month of usage in the portal for $20. If you're a practitioner and you're hooking up 4 people at a time, you can buy a whole month of sessions for $30, or you can buy a whole year in the portal and have a 20 or 30% discount. It is just absolutely fabulous. Otherwise, you're clicking inside the Ballistas program, view, summary. Okay, I want a composite display. I'm going to hold down the control key. I'm going to click alpha amplitude, theta amplitude, delta amplitude, on and on and on, just to get the left brain composite display. It's already in the portal. And there's a scroll bar that you click in the bottom of the composite display, and your mind mirror pattern's right there. So you go down and you look at the script, what triggered it. You say, I want to look at this point. You look in the composite display, and you just sit there and watch the mind mirror. It's such a fantastic program. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's a miracle that we had a software. This would have cost $1 million to get this kind of program, except that we happen to have a practitioner trainee who didn't want to draw brainwaves, and he figured out a way, and then he embroidered and he added on features. And so we've got this magnificent portal for dirt cheap. So if you have a mind mirror and you're going to buy anything in the meditation center, any of the meditations, by all means, make sure you're signed up for the portal. And if you forget, I can add your meditations to the portal for you. It's brilliant. Talk about fast forward your consciousness expansion. That portal is the thing that does it. Did I convince everyone? Nod or... I see Steve nodding, Sandra. Both of them were using the heck out of the portal. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hi, Judith.
Hello.
Judith, it's Andrea in France.
Hi.
How are you? Good to be connected again. I just thought I might offer an answer to the last question of why would someone get a mind mirror if you're not necessarily going to be a practitioner. I am a medical doctor and have been doing meditation for years, and I trained with Judith in Pennsylvania at the end of 2019. And I didn't get it so that I would be hooking up other people's brains. I just wanted to see what was going on in my own brain, because I do have some sort of psychic abilities. I do distance healing, and I'm a long-term meditator. So for me, having the mind mirror and being able to watch my brainwave patterns as I go into different meditations, whether they're silent or they're breath or they're audio guided meditations, for me, that was the big draw. So for you, it might also be interesting to be able to see, as Judith pointed out, if you know specifically what you do in your own meditation, whether it's a visualization or some other guided technique, you can see, in the final report exactly what your brainwave patterns were doing at each step of your meditation. And for me, that just gave me greater awareness and greater reliability to return to those brainwave states, anchoring them into me and having just that fast return to these different states of consciousness. So just thought I'd share that.
Thank you so much for that. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I used to do this on the old Mind Mirror 3. We had a little push button thing, and I would get to a state of consciousness and push the button, and it would freeze the mind mirror, and I'd open my eyes and look down and say, "Oh, okay." But it was recording, but into a session. But the old mind mirror, you could go backward and forward at a frame at a time, but that was it. There was no data analysis at all. And that was, I learned so much from that. One thing it gives you is the faith that you're where you think you are. It's not just the information of where you want to go, but for a lot of meditators, it's a world of difference. It's helped me out immensely. Any other questions?
Judith, and let me just add that I prove that Mind Mirror is a great device to see the unseen, and for lots of people who are not quite sure, if this is really happening, and any kinds of subtle energy work, which is involved when you are doing healing, which is involved when you are doing reading, all this phenomena that's hard to explain. No, you will find the proof that there is a process. There is a process going on, and it's real, it's deep. So, because brain and our electrical activity of the brain will register any electrical jolts, shifts, changes in the field, and in the group field, group consciousness. So we are able now to monitor this, not just explore and research what's going on within you, in your consciousness, with your energies as you do this, as you try that, but you can explore more, how two people or more people interact, how the whole group interacts. And this is the beauty of it. You don't just passively sit there and get zapped. It works. You can just explore and do it organically. Explore and heal yourself and do it for others.
Key to conscious evolution, right? Is becoming a scientist of your life. I want to thank you all so much for being here and hope you enjoyed this program. I think Oksana and I were both absolutely shocked that we didn't do this as the very first webinar way back in 2016 or something, when this webinar started. I've been working on some practitioner training videos. It's a long-term project with Oksana and Suzanne Temple. And got to the point where I was mapping off what we were going to do, and I went, uh-oh, we should have done this a long time ago. So if you have questions, if you have ideas for webinars, it's easy for us to overlook the obvious. We would absolutely love to hear from you by email or in the chat. Oksana points out that she's going to edit the recording and send this out with a YouTube link. And Stephen says, Anna's work is fascinating and wants to learn more. Thanks for an engaging presentation. Oh, you do justice to the work. Thank you, Oksana, for complimentary and insightful input. Thanks from Stephen in New Zealand. Thank you for joining us, all of you. And we hope you'll be in touch. We hope to have an excellent program for you next month, and see you then.